No. Good morning. We're learning as a schusser for Shlema Filanachaya Baserach. We're in the Kufyud Tes Amid Aleph, where we about 15 lines in the bottom by the two dots. We're continuing in that this was a long mission at the beginning of the parak, and we continue with the analysis of that Mishnah. So the Mishnah said, Bo Yerushalayim, Nesru Habamas V'Layel Heter. When they came to Yerushalayim, there was the Bamas became Asur, and they didn't become Mutter ever again. Tanur Rabban. The Mazel told the Yidden when you get to Eretz Yisrael, it's still not going to be Al Hamnucha V'Al Nachla. Menucha zu Shila, Nachla zu Yerushalayim. Menucha is Shila, which is the 369 years that they had a Bama Gedaila there, and Nachla is Yerushalayim when they had built a Beis HaMikdash. V'ayma hoyseli nachlasi ka'aryeh beyar. That's where we see that Yerushalayim is a Nachla, because it says Nachlasi was like a lion in the forest, and the pasuk continues, it talks about Yerushalayim. V'ayma hayayit savua Nachlasi, the colored birds are circling around my Nachla. They're circling around it, and that's also talking about Yerushalayim. That the Rebbe was talking about. The pasuk is talking about how it's always under attack. Divrei Rabbi Yehuda. So that's Rabbi Yehuda. He says, Al Hamnucha V'Al Nachla is Shila and Yerushalayim. Shivnai Menucha zu Yerushalayim, Nachla zu Shila. He has it the other way around. The first one is Yerushalayim, and the second word, Nachla, is Shila. This is my Menucha forever, meaning referring to Yerushalayim. Poyeshev ki visia. That's where I'm going to sit, because I was waiting for it. The Baruch Shalom chose Sion. It's a place of his where he's going to sit. So we see that Yerushalayim is the place of Menucha. It makes sense chronologically. First came Menucha Shila, then came Nachla Yerushalayim. It should have said it the other way around. Good morning. It's saying the other way around. The Torah is telling you, it's saying not only have you not gotten to the Menucha, to Yerushalayim, you haven't even gotten to the Nachla, to Shila, to even that lower level of stability. Okay, we're 3 lines from the bottom of Kufya Tes Amar Aleph. Tanbrei Bishmo, Zubazu Shila. He said both Menucha and Nachla are referenced to Shila. When it says the Basam Adata La Menucha V'Al Nachla, it means they can get to Shila. Shemen Yechai Aimer Zubazu Yerushalayim. He said both of them are Yerushalayim. Talking about Bishlam Dama Menucha Zu Shila Nachla Yerushalayim Inami Itcha. Point to them either the first 2 pshatim, that one refers to Shila, one Yerushalayim. Hainus Tevela Menucha V'Al Nachla. Elaman Dama Zubazu Shila or Zubazu Yerushalayim Menucha Nachla Mibayale. Whether you say they both mean Shila or they both mean Yerushalayim, it doesn't make sense why it should El HaMenucha ve'El HaNachla. It should say El HaMenucha v'HaNachla. It's talking about the same thing. So why would you say El HaMenucha ve'El HaNachla? So Gemara kasha. It's a good kasha according to these 2 pshatim. So Gemara Bishlam Mandama Zuvazu Shila. According to the Mandama that says both words Menucha and Nachla both mean Shila. Menucha the Nachum Kibush. Menucha is because that's when the Yidden stopped. They went to Shila after they finished conquering Eretz Yisrael. Nachla de Palgu. Some Nachlas. That's where they divide up the Nachlas. Very posh. The Savyachal Hem Yeshua. Vayipalam Gairol B'Shila Al Pi Hashem. In Shila, that's where they made the Gairol to decide who got what. Elamanda Amar Zubazu Yerushalayim. According to the Mandama, that both is Yerushalayim. Bishlam and Nachla Saylamim. You can understand the Lashon Nachla because Yerushalayim is the place that our ultimate inheritance. Ela Menucha, my Menucha. Well, ela menucha. What does it mean, menucha? How does menucha refer to Shalayim? Menucha's aron. It's a place where the aron rests. He can aron when the aron came to rest in Yerushalayim. So Bishlam Lamanda Amazu Shalayim, Aval Shila Havasharia Bamas. According to if you'll say that both of them are talking to you about Yerushalayim, and the pasuk is saying, it's saying until you get to Yerushalayim, Bamas are aser. Then that would mean Aval Shila Havasharia Bamas. It would mean that in Shila, even when it was in Shila, Bamas were mutter. Right? According to we've been saying until now that Bamas were only mutter in prior to the Mishkan in the Midbar, and during the 14 years when it was in Gilgal and in Noiva Givain. But Sheila was also. But if you say El Nucha V'Anach is a reference to Yerushalayim, that means Sheila was also not included in the Isser of Bamas. So Handel said, "Yikach Manoyach as Gedia Izim V'Samincha V'Yal Alatzur LaShem." You can understand why Manoyach brought a carbon on a rock, which is a bama, because this is during the time when the Mishkan was in Sheila. Lamanda Mazuvazu Sheila Yavam Savasirin Mai Vayikach Manoyach. How could it be if, according to the other mandamar, that says they're both referring to Sheila, and the truth is according to the other pshatim that we said also, one is Sheila and one is Yerushalayim. What is it? How could Manoyach bring a carbon on a bama during the time when the Mishkan was in Sheila? So like we said earlier, this was a malach that had said specifically when he got the news of Shimshon's birth, he was told to bring a carbon. Tan Rabbi Shmuel, Reb Shimon ben Yochai, the Amar Zuvaz Yerushalayim. Tana the Rabbi Shmuel was nachas to Reb Shimon ben Yochai. They were the ones who originally had this machlaikas. That he agreed in the end that they agree that it means Zuv Zu Yerushalayim. They said Manich Mashchi Gavra LeGavri, and the simon is that the Gavra, which is Reb Shimon ben Yochai, was able to take the Rabbim, Tana Rabbi Shmuel, and convince them to agree with him. So the Mishnah continued, and it said all of the dinim that apply to a carbon that's being brought on a bama. So Zak the Gemara. The Gemara is going to explain where does it come from, all these halachas that apply to a carbon being brought on a bama. Kala kachim, Amr of Kana, Loishan b'shchita. I'm sorry, this is we're not up to that yet. We had said, because I'm in the room, not looking in the right place. Okay, I can't find where it is in the Bolishilin Esra Abama. Bolishilin Esra Abama. Kol HaKodshim Ekdishim B'Shas. Oh, right. Kol HaKodshim, the Mishnah says, Kol HaKodshim Ekdishim B'Shas Isser Habamas V'Kriyim B'Shas Isser Habamas Mebechutz Haril Ba'etzev V'Loisei V'Chayven Lov Karas. Right. The Mishnah had said the different dinim. If a carbon was separated, it was hukdash at the time of Isser Habamas, and then it was brought bachutz in the time of Isser Habamas. There's an essay and a lois essay and a karas. Hekdeshim B'Shas Heter Habamas. It was set aside at the time of Heter Habamas. It's not going to be chayiv b'karas. And if it was the other way around, then there'll just be an essay because the person should have brought it when he had the essay to bring it, and he neglected to bring it at the time. He wasn't mekayim the essay that he's supposed to bring it to the Ayil Mai. So Dr. Gemara. Ve'elu kachim. No, where are we up to?
Yeah, ve'elu kachim. No. Kol kachim.
Kol kachim. Amar of Kahana. So that din that we just said that you're going to be chayiv if you bring it.
But you'll be
you're not going to be chayiv karas if you separate a carbon b'shas heter abamas, and then bring it b'shas iser abamas. Rav Kahana says that's only talking about shechita. Awal b'hala karas nami mechayev. There will be even karas on that. My time at the Amakra ba'aleim toimer. The pasuk says. Aleim toimer ish mi beis Solomon ager asher yagu b'soicham asher yalo oiloi zavach ala smuchen toimer. That pasuk is that pasuk is talking about at the end when the first 7 psukim are talking about shechita. The last 2 psukim are talking about halah, and it says on them va'aleim toimer on what we described before, which was like we had described in the Gemara earlier. That was both a description of shechita b'chutz, but it also was the pasuk had switched over from things that were brought b'shas heter abamas to those things that were brought b'shas iser abamas. And it's saying v'aleim toimer. It's saying legabe halah that's going to be chayiv ala smuchim. What we had described earlier, something that was separated b'shas heter abamas. If you're malit b'chutz, you're still going to be chayiv kares. Maske floraba miksiv va'aleim toimer aleim ksiv. It doesn't say va'aleim with an ayin, which is a reference on them, on what we had described earlier in the pasuk. It says aleim with an aleph or to the yidden. You should tell the yidden this. So it's not darsh. You can't use the smuchen to tell you that there's going to be kares even on halah where there was, which was nikra b'shas heter abams. V'oitan Tanya. We also have a brisa. Arba klalos hayirub shimonayim b'kachim. This is also shiver on what Rav Kahana tried to say, that halah is an exception that you can chayiv karetz even when it was nikrav b'shas heter abamas. We said there are four rules that Rav Shimon would say b'kachim. Hekdish b'shas iser abamas shachat v'hela b'shas iser abamas b'chutz harei me'esav lo yisev yesh ben karetz. That's a classic halah and shchita b'chutz. They chayiv karetz. Hekdish b'shas heter abamas v'shachat v'hela b'shas iser abamas harei me'esav lo yisev yesh ben karetz. Includes both shachat v'hela, and was saying that there's not going to be kares. So he's clearly not saying like Rav Kahana had said. Hekdesh b'shas isur abam v'shachat v'hela b'chut b'shas heter abamas hareim be'esei ve'ein ben beloisei. Like we said in our Mishnah, there's only going to be an essay because he should have brought it when he had the chance b'shas heter abamas. Hekdesh b'shas heter abam v'shachat v'hela b'shas heter abamas potam miklum. I don't even know why you have to say it. I guess for symmetry was saying that. If he's saying if you bring b'chutz b'shas heter abamas, you're not chayiv because there's no iser abamas. Tiyufta to Rav Kahana tiyufta. This says clearly that halah is also going to be chayiv kares. Be'elu kachim. The Mishnah continues, and it says all the things that you are required to do when you bring a carbon by a bama. So Dr. Mar smicha. Where do we know that you need smicha by a bama? I'm sorry, that you don't need smicha by a bama. The Torah says Lifnei Hashem v'samach. It only is Lifnei Hashem. It's only by the Mishkan or the Beis Hamikdash, not by a bam. Shchitas tzafan. Where do you know that you don't need to shecht it on the northern side? If it's fine, Lifnei Hashem. Only Lifnei Hashem is there a chiyuv of tzafan. Matanis saviv. Where do you know that you don't need all 4 matanis or shtayim sheim arba of the dam? T'chsev v'zorak al mizbeach saviv al mizbeach, only on the mizbeach. Tenufa. Where do you know you don't need to wave it? It's only Lifnei Hashem. Hagasha, bringing the mincha close. It's only near by the mizbeach that you have the din of Hagasha. There's no minchas by a bama. We came across this rule many times, and we always said there's a pasuk. Now we're finally going to get to see what the pasuk is. It's a very simple pasuk. According to the man, the Amar, that you bring a mincha by a bama, you also have a din of bring oifes by bama. And vice versa will also be true, because the pasuk will apply to both of them. Zevachim, how do we know that you don't do? There's no bama, there's no minchas by a bama, there's no oifes by a bama. The pasuk says Zevachim, beloy menachos, Zevachim beloy oifes. The lashon of Zevachim that the Torah says. Asher him zoifchim is not a lashon of a mincha. You don't shecht a mincha, and you don't even shecht an oif. An oif gets malika, so therefore they're excluded according to that mandamar. Both oifis and minchas are not brought on a bam. But kayin, Where do we know that there's no requirement of kahuna on a bama? D'chsev v'zara kakayin. And the pasuk says, "Legabi v'zara kakayin is adam al mizbeach Hashem." So it's if it's not mizbeach Hashem, there's no need for kahuna. Big day sharis, because it says l'sharis by kodesh. Only by kodesh is a requirement of big day kahuna. Ukli sharis, you don't need a kli sharis. Asher yishasu by kodesh. Only by kodesh is a requirement for kli sharis. Reich nichayach, that you can't burn it prior, you can't cook it prior to putting the emurim on the mizbeach or the basar on the mizbeach. The civil reich nichayach Hashem, only Hashem. You have a din of reich nichayach. Mechitza b'damim. Where do we know that there's a difference between the top and the bottom of the mizbeach? It has to be on top or on bottom, as the case may be. A chatas is on top and oil is on bottom. The siv ha'isa hareshus ad chatziyah mizbeach. The reshus which divided the reshus was the lace or the mesh that divided between the top and the bottom part of the mizbech was only on the mizbech. Richot yadayim, the flivikraftam al mizbech yichotzu, only on the mizbech. Amar Rabbi lo yishal b'kachay ba maktana b'krivim b'ba maktana. That din, all these dinim, is only if you're makdish a carbon. You had intention to bring in a ba maktana and you brought in a ba maktana. Ava b'kachay ba maktana v'kavinu ba magdala yesh chitza. If you're intended first to bring the carbon on a ba maktana, guy set aside his oila and he says, I'm bringing it in my neighborhood bama, and then later on he changes his mind. After he was makdish it, he says, I'm going to go to Gilgal and I'm going to do it there. Then he has to do the oila, he has to do the dam on the bottom of the mizbech. Moisev Rabba chazav shayku trumalach meitayda noigim b'kachay ba magdala. Those are done on the kachim that are brought on a ba magdala. Ve'noigim b'kachay ba maktana. It's not noig on kachim that are brought to a ba maktana that you are makadish for a ba maktana. So you see that it's only these dinim that are going to apply on a ba magdala, on something that was makudish, that is excluded if it was put on a ba maktana. But the din of where you zarek the dam, the chayra would be naik, even on a kadshe ba maktana, right? It's use a lotion of kadshe ba maktana. We're saying
Are we asking a question on Rami Rachama's din? We see that if you're mekadosh in a bama katana, that you would be mekarvit in a bama gedela, and here we're seeing.
No, well, you could bring it to bama gedela. That's not the question. The question is what rules will apply.
No,
we have said
like you
will have the rules. You're going to have the rules of the bama gedela legabi zrikas dam that has to be on the proper part of the mizbech. But this Mishnah, this Brisa said that only the chazav v'soik and trumalach meitayda are not noyig b'kachay ba maktana. It's mashma that there is going to be, that there's not going to be a chitzui. No, I'm saying, so we want to bring a raya from here. Right? So Gemara,
Rob is asking a question.
So let me get this. Because the Gemara is going to the ein noyigin biktana.
Rami Bachama said kashi bama kashi bama kitana the kavina bama gedeli yesh chitzay, right?
Amar Rami Bachama lo yishalu b'kachi bama kitana b'krim bama kitana. Ava b'kachi bama kitana b'krim bama gedeli yesh chitzay. Then he asked, Moisev Rabba, chazav b'shoyke truma lach mitayga noyigin b'kachi bama gedeli ve'ein noyigin b'kachi bama kitana. I guess he's saying that why would it be any different?
Just like you said, there's no
tnufa l'Hashem yikol makom b'magdala isnu v'afilu b'kacha b'magdana who had din lekulu b'magdala claim b'shas is. So Rashi says Loishanu, the Yesh Chitzi B'Bam G'dayla, B'Zman Bam G'dayla, Klem B'Shas Isra Bam, so Zman had to have Let's go weiter and let's see if we can.
Beforehand. I think it's a Rashi beforehand. But
Yeah. So Rashi. The Sibu Tnufel Hashem B'Kol Makom B'Bam G'dayla Isnu V'Afilu B'Kachay Bam G'tana V'Hu Adin L'Kulo. I guess he's saying that it would also include the Chitzui. I don't know. I had understood it the other way around, that it's saying there only these things. Right. So meaning that it would, and everything, all the rules of not just these things, but chitzui as well. I had understood it was saying these things, only these things, and not chitzui. Right? So it must be the other way around, like you're saying. So the Gemara, no, it's not necessarily the case. It means to say, it's not saying by a kache b'makatana. It means it's not noyig on a b'makatana itself. It's not saying those things that were separated for a b'makatana, but by the b'makatana itself. The din of chitzi is only by kache b'makatana that were marked by the kache b'makatana. Avagav the kvinu b'makatana ain't chitzi. There's no chitza. So you see that it's takana noyeg by kache b'maktana. Ema noyegin b'maktana vein noyegin b'maktana. Okay. So this is we asserted the other way around. We want to bring this a raya, and we have the same way of saying that it's not a raya, that it's not talking about some of those hukdash for the b'maktana, but rather actually what you bring on the b'maktana. This conclusion that we just said is not like Rebbe Lazar. I'm Rebbe Lazar. Oilas bambas yachad shechnisa b'fnim kultua mechitzas l'chol dam. Oila of a bambas yachad that you had separated to bring on a bambas yachad, and I think you even brought it, and then you brought it afterwards to the bama gedayla. It's going to have all the rules of the Bama Gedayla. So you see that once something gets brought in, it gets the dinim of the Bama Gedayla. Boy Rav Zeir, not like we had just concluded, ve'en noyegin b'kache Bama Ketana. So Boy Rav Zeir, oilas Bamas Yachid, shechnis lefnim v'yitzia l'chutz mouth. According to what we just said, that the Bama Gedayla is kailat, whatever is brought into it. What happened? If you brought a Bamas Oilas, you had originally set it aside for a Bamas Yachid, and you brought a Lefnim. So now we say it's Kultua, the Bama Gedayla, and it has a din that it has to have all the rules of the Bama Gedayla. And then you brought it again out L'chutz. Mao. Me, I mean, keeping the Ayla, Kultala, Mechitza, do you say since it came inside, it's permanently now has a din of being a Bama Gedayla that you have to separate the dam and do Lamaila and Lam. So Idilma, keeping the harder. Since you took it out, it goes back to its original status as a Bama Ketana Karba. So tomorrow, Lavaina pluk to the Rabbi Rav Yosef. This is the Chayr, the Machlekes of Rabbi Rav Yosef. It's none. Kache Kachim, Sheshachtam Bedorim. If you have Kache Kachim, that you shechted on the wrong part of the Azara, on the south instead of on the north, which is always supposed to be, on the north. Moyalam Behed. The Shechita Bedorim is enough to make it that it's going to be a Shechita L'gabi kachim that it's going to have a din of meila. V'boilu, but he still asked another question. I think it's yalu mausha yardu. They switch this around. The Shitas and Mukabetza switches it around. It's not going to go yardu mausha yalu. We're talking about the din im Allah yarad. So if you already brought it up onto the mizbeach after you shechted it bedarim, what's the din? Rabba Amar lo yardu. Rabba says once it was alu, it's lo yardu. Rabbi Yosef Amar yardu. You do take it off the mizbeach. So tibaya la Rabba. So this is l'chayra. We want to say this is going to be the same question whether the temporary the kedusha that came from it having a shechita in the wrong place, whether it applies and it sticks. That in this case, Lagabi, whether it's going to be Ma'al Yardu, by us, it's going to be whether it's going to have the dinim of the Mizbeach HaGadol. And our question could be applied both according to Rabbi Reis. Maybe Rabba said his din, that he said, im alu lo yardu legabi ashchitas daram el bezvech, the chazile, the chazile. Aval bezvech, the chazile mekadosh, the loy chazile mekadosh. Maybe he says, by the mizbech is mekadosh that which is chazile. It's not mekadosh that which is not chazile. Aval mechitza avagav the loy chazile kolta. Maybe the gabi the din of the mechitza. We said that if he brings it inside the mechitza, it's going to be kailated. It's going to be kailated regardless of its status. It means Rabbah was only saying it's loy im alu yardu over there because it wasn't. He did it in the wrong place. He did it in the tzafon, in the darim instead of the tzafon. So it didn't become kaddish. But over here, it does belong. There's nothing saying it doesn't belong inside the Bama Gedayla. So once it came into Bama Gedayla, it was kailat. That which Rabbi Yosef said, it is kailat over the elder chad makamu, where it's all the mizbeach.
That it doesn't go down.
It doesn't go down, yeah. By the mizbeach, because it's all in the chatzah. So it's the wrong part of the chatzah, but you're all in the chatzah. But over here, where you originally had intended to bring it to Bama Ketana, now you bring it to Bama Gedayla, it's two entirely separate places. You can't change its status even though you brought it into the Bama Gedayla. It's not clear that the Machlekes Rabba and Rabbi Yosef will track our question by a Bama Gedayla and a Bama Ketana. Milsa the Pshitile the Rabba B'chad Gisa or the Rabbi Yosef B'chad Gisa. What was partial to Rabba in one way and to Rabbi Yosef in the other direction. We buy a Leila Rav Yanai. This is a Charlotte and Rav Yanai. By Rav Yanai, Ivrei Oilus Bamas Yachid Sha'olu Mizbeach V'Yardu. If you have a varim of Oilus Bamas Yachid that you brought onto the Mizbeach and then you brought it down, Mao. The question is going to be, if you have Ivrei Oilus of a Bamas Yachid, you had intended to bring Oil on a Bamas Yachid, and then you brought it onto the Mizbeach which is a Mizbeach means a Bama Gedayla, and then you took it down, does it have a din that once it's Alula Yardu or Yardu Yalu? I don't think the Shita switches this around, but he's going to ask, so he has this as a question, and he leaves it as a take. Itmar. Shchitas Laila Bebamas Yachid. Right? We said we had a long list of things in the Mishnah that we said are not required for a bama. What about the din of you have to shech by day? What if someone shechted at night by a bamas yachid? Rabbi Shmuel chad amar ksher v'chad amar psula. One says it's kosher, one says it's puzzle. Rabbi Lazar Rami, kroya adadi. He asked from two psukim. Ksiv hayomer begadtem galu ala elu hayoim. Begatem, you have Shaul told the Yidden after the Milchama that they shechted the animals. He said, you have betrayed me. You should go roll over this big rock that you should use it and bring the animals as karbanos instead of just shechting them. You should the Shaul said, let the whole come and bring all their animals to this rock, and they'll shecht it over here. They won't sin to Hashem to eat without doing the zrikas dam that you're supposed to do for a carbon. And everyone came that night with their animals, and they shechted it there. So we have two psukim. The first one says, said by day bring the rock. Then it says that they shechted at night. So Mar Meshani Kambachul and Kambakachim. One man the Amar who says that this is talking about a bum, obviously, right? It's a rock that he set up. One says when we said that you could do it by night was bechulin, meaning they were just shechting. He was saying shechta to eat. and the kachim they had to bring to the bama. Said some of these things were intended originally to be brought to the mizbeach in Shiloh, and therefore they were required to be done by day. The others were just the bama ketana, so they were able to be brought on the rock at night. So I mean, it's going to depend on whether you hold a bama ketana needs to be by day or could also be by night. Idmar. Oilus bamas yachid. Rav Amar ein tu'una hefshet benituach. The oil of a bamas yachid, Rav says, does not require that it should be skinned and cut into pieces before it's burnt in its entirety on the bama. Rav Yechon Amar tu'una hefshet benituach. He says it does need it. Well, committing to Rabbi Yosei Galili. They're arguing about Rabbi Yosei Galili. The Tanya Rabbi Yosei Galili. Omer oila shekrivu Yisrael b'midbar. The oil that the Yidden brought in the midbar. Ein tu'una hefshet benituach. That was prior to the building of the Mishkan by Har Sinai. He said it didn't need hefshet benituach. It didn't have hefshet benituach. Ella may oil moed be'elech. It was only for the time of the building of the Mishkan. Marsav my oil moed be'elech loishna ba'magdayla v'loishna ba'magtana. One Madama says even by a ba'magtana you need hefshet benituach after the building of the Mishkan. Marsav by ba'magdayla in ba'magtana loy. It was only bedafka by the oil moed that you need hefshet benituach, but a ba'magtana does not need hefshet benituach. Tanya Kavase the Rabbi Yochanan. I'll bring a raya to Rabbi Yochanan that says that you do need hefshet benituach. What's the between the ba'magdayla and ba'magtana? Karen v'kevesh v'yisoid, whether you need the horns and the ramp and the yisoid v'irvua, and it needs to be squared off. Ba'magdayla v'ein karen v'yisoid v'kevesh v'irvua ba'magtana. These are not needed on a ba'magtana. Kia v'kanai ba'magdayla, you have to have the wash basin with its spigots in the ba'magdayla v'ein kia v'kanai ba'magtana. Chaz of a sheikh ba'magdayla v'ein chaz of a sheikh ba'magtana. There's no waving, there's no bringing the chaz of a sheikh in the ba'magtana. Dvarim sheshavza ba'magdayla ba'magtana shchita ba'magdayla uktana. You have to do shchita by both the ba'magdayla and the ba'magtana. Hefshet benituach b'dayla uktana. And you need also hefshet benituach. So it's like Rabbi Yochanan who says even a ba'magtana needs hefshet benituach. Dam mater umafagil b'dayla uktana. Another thing that they're similar on, that the dam, when you do the zrikas dam, that's mater the basar ba'achila, both on a ba'magdayla and ba'magtana, and having a machshavas chutzul zman and chutzul koinei is going to make a pigel by a b'dayla uktana. Mumin uzman b'dayla uktana, and the din of mumin, that a mum will passel, is also by a ba'magtana and zman, that if you go past the time, it's going to be awesome. So he said, "Aval noisa v'hazman v'hatome shavin zebezeh." The din that it can't go past its time, and the machshavas chutzul zmanoi is going to passel, and if it's tame, it's going to be passel. Tanur but minayin lasses man b'ba'magtana k'ba'magdayla. How do we know the isser of chutzul zmanoi is by a ba'magtana just like ba'magdayla? So we'll skip the parentheses. The Amar Torah lon yisaref v'yotzi yisaref. The Torah says something that was left past its time gets burnt, and something that went out of its place gets burnt. Ma yotzer kosher b'bama, af lon kosher b'bama. So too, just like a yotzer is kosher by a bama, so too if something was left past its time, it's kosher b'bama. Zok Gemara, v'lav kal v'chaymahu. So we was giving what the reason is why we would think the other way around, that we're going to say that Zaman is not going to be chayiv. So I would say just like Yaitza is kosher by bama, af long kosher by bama, lav kavachaymu me oifes. I can make kavachaymu oifes. Ma oifes she'ena mum poisel bohen, Zman poisel bohen. Madach oifes, that there's no such thing as a mum by oifes. Nevertheless, if it's past the Zman, it's possible. Koche ba'maktana. Shamum paisel behen. We already said that a mum passes by ba'maktana. Ein edin shezman paisel behen. So no. Mal oifes shechein ein azar kosher behen. Oifes cannot be brought by a zar. That's the by kain. Time by ba'maktana shazar kosher ba lo yezman possible. Tamalay v'zayis Torah Zevachim lasem zam ba'maktana kizman ba'magdelis. That's what we need a pasuk. We kept on saying. We tried to think, why do we need a pasuk to tell you? So we said we could have made the kal v'chayim, and you can't ask from Eifis. So I would have said that just like it's asa belon. It's as I would say, it should be that it should be excluded from. I would have thought it should be excluded from the din of zman, that lon should be potter, because you can't learn it out from a kal v'chaimer. So we have a pasuk that tells you zoister zevachim lasa zman ba maktana, because zman ba magdalet, it's going to be a requirement that it can't go past that zman. How do you parchat is legal on Masechtas Zevachim? Mazel tov, mazel tov.
Thank you very, very much. That's incredible.
Thank you.
Everybody take care.